How are you?
Welcome back.
Not so, but it's okay. How are you? Good to see you. You have a good day?
Good day. How about yourself?
I'm good.
You went up?
Believe you me when I say to you that your hospitality is beyond anything that we have imagined.
Life that will always be special. And this such visit for me is one. I'm acutely aware that we are moving against the tide of history and that we are seeking to forge a new destiny for our people. It requires courage, it requires perseverance, it requires tolerance, because there are those who have sought to separate us for centuries, along with the reality of the geography of our existence. But equally, the technology of our time has conspired to bring us together. And the only thing remaining is for the will of our people to make it a reality. We have sought, as leaders of our respective nations, to say that we believe that this is an idea whose time has come. I must confess to you to be emotional, and I do so because your father, the first president of this republic, stood as one of the giants of the liberation movement of the 20th century. I'm even more emotional because I reflect on the fact that the person who would have worked and represented your father, Mr. Dudley Thompson of beloved memory, was a close friend, and indeed, on the occasion of the passing of the father of our own independence, Errol Walton Barrow, Dudley Thompson stayed with my family, and I record that I gave up my bedroom to allow him to be there because there were so many visitors in the house. Until that time, that and the history books were my link to Kenya. Until August of this year, when you visited our fair shores, and your visit left such a taste, not just in the mouth of my government, but in the people of my country. The fact that I've been able to bring private sector representatives here, the fact that your governor of the central bank was able to come within a month, the fact that I had a delegation from the Ministry of International Business and Trade here a couple weeks ago, I think that the records will show that every few weeks since August, officials of the Kenyan and Barbadian government and private sector have been engaging. That is a statement of confidence in what the future holds, if ever there was one. And I look forward to our being able to give greater substance to that by ensuring that the architecture which is necessary to unleash the energy of our people is built. That architecture will be found, first and foremost, in the air and sea bridges that we are working assiduously to build, recognizing that it will require patience and commitment, but none but ourselves can make it happen. And none but ourselves will be responsible for not making it happen. Secondly, that the trust that is needed to give our people the confidence that they can do business with each other, even if they don't yet know each other well, will come through the institution that gives us both oxygen and trust, the banks and financial institutions. So that when Kenyan banks are to be found within Barbados and the Caribbean, Kenyan businessmen know that they have a familiar face. And when Barbadian businessmen come to Kenya after Kenyan banks have been established in Barbados, Barbadian businessmen know that they can trust and have an opportunity to learn the place through people that they, and institutions that they already know. But as if that were not enough, my good brother, you and I have agreed that the ones who come after us must do it with greater passion. And that is why even as we work together to reform the world and to help us fight the great challenges of this world today, we are making sure that the generations that will come will know each other and will be able to relate to each other and will have more than a historical bond to unite them. And hence the partnering of our children, our cultural people, and our sports people. So I say to you simply, thank you. I've said it over and over. We've heard of the Kenyan hospitality. My very good friend Tunde Falawio, who is our honorary consul for Lagos, is here with me. And he, for years, told me about the Kenyan hospitality. But to experience it is a different thing. It is very special. And I shall go home with that message because I want every Barbadian to experience it. I say to you that you hand over formally to me UNCTAD's presidency in October. It cannot be done virtually, so I expect to see you in Bridgetown. Friends, know that this has been possible, not just because we are committed freedom fighters and development builders, but there has been a special bond between Uhuru and myself and Margaret. And part of it is his personality, but part of it is the convictions that this world can be made a better place and that we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility so to do. And I told him today as we walked through this State House that his name, Uhuru, is really a name by name, nature, and action. For freedom is the mission on which he is embarked. And for me, freedom is the mission on which I'm embarked. Because freedom is about giving our people choice. And until our people have choices, there is no ultimate freedom. So, asante sana.
I am indeed happy that Kenya and Barbados continue to enjoy warm and cordial relations, which are deeply rooted in our shared African heritage, as well as common historical links, founded on shared a vision for growth, economic development, and strengthening our people-to-people relationship. Indeed, today, we've agreed that we want to deepen this and even have our students in primary and secondary schools exchanging with each other to get to know one another without necessarily knowing one another through government. Our historic collaboration can be traced back to the pre-independence period, When our liberation movements, both on the African continent and in the Caribbean, were fighting for our independence, and we had many luminaries like Errol Walton Barrow, who you mentioned to me, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, amongst many others. And so today we pay tribute to these and many more such heroic individuals, but also more importantly, we emulate them to realize their dream of maintaining strong bonds between our two countries despite the geographical distance. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have had deep bilateral talks, which have been going on for a couple of days now. And it is abundantly clear that the distance between our two countries is no obstacle, and there is a lot that we can do together to flourish trade, economic ties, as well as cultural ones. And indeed, as we strive to progressively establish direct air connections, and with the solutions offered by ICT, I believe that distance should no longer be a factor in our relationship. So I'm confident that the commitments that we have made to cooperate in the wide spectrum of areas, as we have discussed, from trade and investment, our blue economy, tourism, banking and finance, culture and arts, renewable energy, health, education, will all lead to tangible benefits for our two people. I'm also pleased to note that the interests that have been registered in the area of trade between Kenya and Barbados have increased since my last visit in August of this year. And indeed, there will be another delegation, especially from our banking and finance sector, that will be coming to Barbados in the next few weeks. Already a clear indication that the possibilities are indeed immense. Ours is to continue to nurture these interests and to grow our bilateral trade portfolio. And in this regard, I also welcome Barbadian investors to explore trade and investment opportunities in Kenya. And what I can do is to guarantee you a conducive environment for them to prosper and thrive here in Kenya. We've signed a number of bilateral memorandums of understanding in a wide variety of areas, and more coming. But most importantly, I believe that Kenya and Barbados have individually and jointly made tremendous contributions in advancing the interests of Africa and the Caribbean. We, however, continue to recognize that challenges may remain in realizing the African-Caribbean agenda of a prosperous, free, peaceful, and assertive Africa and her diaspora. And in this regard, I intend to continue working closely with you and other colleagues on the African continent to advance the realization of the various programs and initiatives of the African Union and CARICOM. As I conclude once again, I want to continue to express my profound gratitude to you for accepting to honor our invitation. And indeed, it is a great pleasure to host you this evening and to count you amongst Kenya's most valuable friends in the Caribbean and indeed in the world.